Hi Altamash. Hi Sanket. Thank you for joining. Hi Piku. Sorry, I was just trying to pin the chat, but I'm unable to do that. Hey Aviva, thanks for joining in. So, hello everyone. Some of you have joined this series of mine before, and some of you are new to this. So, I'll just quickly introduce what I'm trying to do here. So, this is a 4-part series called A Step to Entrepreneurship, and today being the third. I've had some really dear friends and really good professionals who've come on before, and today is going to be no different. So, this series is called A Step to Entrepreneurship, and through this, what I aim to do is share with everyone listening now and later how these entrepreneurs at a very young age have made a mark for themselves in their respective fields and what their journey has been so far. So they all have a unique journey, they've all overcome tons of challenges, and this is where they are today. And I think a lot of you will agree with me that the hardest step for anyone, for any of us, any entrepreneur, is to take that first step towards your passion, towards your new journey. It's of course really scary, but I hope that through this series and through our chat today with a very special guest, we will feel empowered to take that leap of faith. So I'm not going to delay this any further. I'd like to very quickly introduce my guest for today, Siddharth Mahajan, who's the CEO at GatewayVR. So Siddharth is a software engineer grad who fell in love with advertising and storytelling and found himself headfirst in a changing world that allowed him to marry his love for tech and storytelling through a brand new medium called immersive technology, which is VR. So Siddharth has worked with one of India's largest digital agencies, creating and crafting larger than life campaigns and with startups to help navigate this ever-changing work through digital transformation, and hopes to bring this to India through India's interior design ecosystem with Project MX, which is a new project that he has launched during this lockdown. So I'm super excited to hear a lot about what he's been doing during this time and also his journey entirely. So just give me a second, Siddharth. Hi, Armighty. Thanks for joining. Hey, Devika. Hey,
Hey,
Siddharth.
hey, how's it going?
Good. How have you been?
Oh, good. I mean, I've been very busy and it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, that's awesome. Having being very busy during this time is, I think, the best thing that can happen to people.
Yeah, I think
So
I don't think I could have done it any other way. I think it's been a lot of fun.
there you go. That's those are words coming out from an entrepreneur's mouth. No,
Always.
but I remember, so that firstly, thank you so much for joining in today and for agreeing to do this. I know you're like super busy and I know you've probably not got any weekends off, but you're still here. So thanks a ton for this.
My
And
pleasure.
I remember when we chatted the first time, we I think spoke for a long time where we were just sharing each other's our journeys with each other, and I think it was really interesting to hear some of the challenges that you went through, and some of the times where you were kind of pulled down in a way, but you had your mind in a place and you said, okay, the only way for me is going forward. I'm not going to get out from that. So I think that is that was really fabulous. And that's also one reason when I was doing this, I said, okay, I need to get you on board to share your journey.
Happy to be here.
So let me not waste too much more time and let me ask you, so when did you take your first step and how did you do it? What was going on in your mind?
Okay, so you know what? I think I'll have to take a couple of steps back and kind of give you a little bit more, a little bit more context to my journey. So I was I mean, I'm a fairly curious guy, and I found myself falling in love with technology and writing code. I mean, that was something that used to keep me up at night because that's something that I really enjoyed doing. And for whatever reason, I decided that maybe I want to be a software engineer. And as I got into engineering, I moved to Chennai, which is where I was working. And halfway through this, I kind of realized after my first internship that I did, in the industry, I kind of realized that I don't see myself, hunkered and hunched over a desk, writing code for the rest of my life. And I wanted to perhaps do something that's a little bit different, that's a little bit more interesting. As it so happened, I ran into a cousin of mine who runs a digital agency, and I was just chatting with him, and kind of he's like, what, why don't you just come to the office, right? I mean, that was my start. He's like, why don't you just come to the office? And I did end up walking to this office. Lo and behold, there are about 40 odd people, 50 odd people in the office, all young, right? And they seem to be having fun. They seem to be enjoying what they were doing. And I asked him that, what, is there an opportunity for me to do something? He's like, what, just start coming in whenever you want. I was there for about a week or 10 days, and I went back to him and said, what, I'm getting bored because I'm really not pushing myself, doing, in social media and digital. So he sent me, or he packed me off for an internship to Delhi. So now I got transferred during my internship, and he said, you want to have access to be able to do a lot more things. So why don't you just head off to Delhi? And I ended up in Delhi. As it turns out, I spent 42 days, 6 entire weeks in Delhi. And for the large part, I think we were doing 18-hour days, 7 days a week, and I absolutely loved it. Right? I mean, it gave me access to a lot more. It also gave me the ability to think, beyond just what everybody's been doing, and gave me the insight to actually take a step forward and try doing something different. Now, by the end of this internship, I had kind of already realized that I am not going to be in software engineering, and I almost dropped out. Fortunately, my mother was able to convince me and get me out. I refused. I mean, I was back in Bombay, and my mother somehow managed to convince me to get up and catch my flight. And I went. I kind of realized that this is not what I want to do. So I started working with a lot of startups in Chennai, in Bombay, trying to see what I can do, where I could potentially fit in, because at this point in time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But as it turns out, I mean, the Oculus Rift came out for the first time in late 2014, which was just about the year before I was about to graduate. And, it seemed very interesting because, everybody was talking about it. And, what it kind of realized is that, as you pointed out in your introduction, right, was the fact that, there were two things that I absolutely loved. One was advertising and storytelling, which was something that, that gave me a lot of pleasure, something that excited me on a daily basis, and the love for technology, which has always been there. So the intention was to kind of, try and identify what is it that we could potentially do, marrying both of these. And I think my first company that I started was in 2015 while I was still in my final year. To a point where I convinced our dean of the computer science department at the university that I would want to do my final year thesis on advertising and technology, as opposed to something a little bit more run of the mill in terms of what is usually expected of us. Fortunately, she was very kind, very forthcoming. Because she knew that I was going to clear all my papers, even though I spent a great part of the last semester not being in college at all. Yeah, so that was actually the first company was Hocus Pocus Labs, which I started with a few people while I was still in my final year.
Okay, interesting. And after that, what happened? I mean, now you've shared with us how you got into this, what your love for tech obviously got you into the entire space that you're in. But you said you started off when you were in last year in your final year of college. So I'm sure there would have been like tons of challenges, and one of the few probably was I personally faced it. So I'm sure you did too. That you're too young to be doing this. So why should we trust you? So, what
Yeah.
were the challenges when you started
So,
off?
so I'll tell you what I mean. I've had similar conversation with a lot of fellow entrepreneurs that I end up meeting. I think you and I have been fairly lucky in that fact, because we have a fairly structured support system, whether it's in our friends, whether it's in our partners, whether it's in our families, right? The fact that not too many people are particularly bothered if you say what's the worst that can happen. You're probably not going to make a salary for 12 months or 18 months, right? So for us, I think for me it was I didn't really have any problem starting out, but as things started evolving, and when you started realizing that I think one of the stories that I probably want to share is it's a part of the first company, which is a content development house for VR. I think one of India's first at that time. And we were working with a fairly large tourism corporation, a government run tourism corporation. And I had partners who were significantly experienced, significantly well known in the ecosystem, and who had years of experience and a body of work behind them. And as it so happened that we were discussing, we were working on a huge contract for one of these tourism corporations. And on the final day, just the day before the day we were going to sign the contract, which was supposed to be a huge contract, given the fact that VR technically did not even exist in India at that point, um, my partners were not able to make it. So it was just me, a fresh-faced 22-year old, sitting across the table with government bureaucrats who, for the lack of a better word, weren't as forthcoming. And we had a long discussion. I presented an entire project map, the entire chart in terms of everything that we wanted to do, only for the conversation to spiral when that gentleman asked me my age. Right. So he asked me, what's your age? I said, sir, I'm 22 years old. And that's kind of when the entire conversation completely turned around, because of the fact that here I am, 22-year-old, fairly smart. I mean, if I would say so about myself, who had a very clear picture on what we wanted to achieve. So I was the one who conceptualized the entire technology bit, and the integration, and how the tourism board is going to be able to use technology in their advertising and marketing. And the gentleman just gets hung up on my age. So it was a massive project that we lost because that gentleman refused to acknowledge the fact that a 22-year-old could potentially know what he was doing, or in this case, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I did was I grew a beard. The first thing I did, I don't sound old, but I mean, there's one of the few things that I absolutely had to do, was to look older. I mean, I don't sound like a child. So I think that's one thing that I had working for me at that time.
And honestly, I mean that like I said initially, that there were probably few things that could have pulled you down, but you decided not to. What happened with that? So did it follow through, or was that the end of the conversation?
So I think so that was the end of the conversation, and after that, I personally realized that irrespective of how big or how small the project is, I would not. I mean, I do not, want to be associating with too much with people who weren't particularly forthcoming on the ability of the team, and they cared about their body of experience. I mean, this is not a technology. We are, this 2015 did not largely exist in India. We were one of the first companies. So it's not like, any other potential vendor, potential agency, production house that they would come across would have very much experience as far as this was concerned. We just decided that, it's perhaps not the right time. Plus, the government bureaucrats started their own thing. They wanted something or the other under the table at all times. So,
Right.
we kind of realized that we are perhaps a little bit more better suited to, try looking at doing things differently or working with different people.
Do you feel this entire age thing still exists today? Or do you feel things have changed? Let's just talk 2015 to now.
So, again, I think it depends from industry to industry and how future looking and future oriented the people that you're dealing with. In my case, I mean, we were dealing with government bureaucrats who aren't perhaps the most progressive people that you would find. But in between the time we shut down Hocus Pocus Labs and I started GatewayVR, there was hardly any time. I think there was a period of time we were overlapping. And to be very honest with you, when you're working with corporates, when you're working with businesses who are fairly future oriented and they understand the value of what you're trying to do, I have personally not seen too many cases. Yes, there is the odd question that, why is it? I mean, let's take today's example. I mean, I'm working in the interior design ecosystem, right? We're building a product for interior design, and it's not like I have any experience in the interior design ecosystem, right? So I think that the question is more about your background in being able to understand the right use cases, rather than what your age is limiting in terms of your experience and what you are able to do. But I
Sure.
personally haven't seen too much of that in the last 3-4 years.
Interesting. Is it also possibly because of, I mean, the way you have kind of grown from that experience? Because I'm sure that kind of was one of those experiences that you're going to carry lifelong with yourself.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, fair enough. I'm pretty sure. I think my sense is their apprehension was on the visual appearance rather than the content of what I was saying. So I don't think I've particularly done too much. It's just that now I'm a little bit more mindful.
Sure.
Uh, you know, I'm a little bit more mindful. I perhaps have to uh, tailor the content of what I'm speaking, as opposed to be a quixotic idealist, loony lefty liberal that I am. I need to, kind of be a little bit more circumspect in the vision that I'm trying to portray to somebody. I mean, I'm not talking about, being able to change the entire world, in a second. But now I perhaps have to, come back to them and, give them a 5-year plan on how I'm going to change the world. So I think that is the difference that, I've kind of changed or seen over the last 5 years now.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. So, why don't you tell all of us a little more about Gateway VR and your role there, what you do exactly?
Okay. How much time do we have?
Okay, I'll give you a minute for that.
Okay, cool. So GatewayVR is launching Project MX, which is our platform to lead the digital transformation of the interior design ecosystem. Essentially, a two-part platform. One is a marketplace that allows product designers who are working with anything from furniture to lights to carpets to be able to showcase their products to the interior design community. And we've married that with a real-time visualization software, which essentially allows interior designers to create layouts and visuals and 3D renders for customers' homes using products that are actually available in the market. I think I did that in about 38 seconds. Not bad.
Amazing. No, but that's I think very very new to this to India at least. And I think you launched this right now, right? During the lockdown.
Yeah,
You very
just
recently
last week.
launched it. So
Last week.
so so really, how did that happen? Did you feel that I should be going ahead with it, I shouldn't be going ahead with considering this entire lockdown situation? What were the challenges that were in your mind at that point before making this decision?
So, if you look at it, see, I mean, to be very honest with you, we've been working on this platform and this technology since, especially for the interior design ecosystem since perhaps November last year. I mean, that's when we started identifying problems and statements and solutions and opportunities where technology could play a long-term role, within the design ecosystem. Now, as it turns out, we have obviously gone over about 4 or 5 different business plans, between then and now. But I think we decided that there is no time like the present, um, primarily because of the fact that most interior designers and architects, or even product designers for that fact, were not doing too much during the lockdown because they were not able to get to their studios or go to sites or work with their customers. So they were spending more time internalizing introspection and actually designing something for a change. Sorry, please don't misquote me. So these guys spent a lot of time doing a lot of those things over a period of time, and we realized that there is never going to be a better time to actually open a line of communication or open a dialogue with them. There was absolutely going to be nothing when the world starts opening, interior designers are probably going to be spending 8 hours a day on the road or on sites, and they're probably never going to be in a position wherein they can give you 30 minutes to actually understand what you're trying to do. So we decided that, we just threw the entire rulebook out of the window. We had a private beta version that we were supposed to launch in the month of November this year. Somehow our team was just able to put this entire thing together in virtually no time at all. And we have just started putting out, the early access of the platform. And, for what it's worth, a lot of people have started coming back with great response to, what we are trying to do. And they finally understand the need. I think COVID obviously exacerbated the need for technology to be disrupting the interior design ecosystem. And I think we found ourselves to be, doing the right thing at the right place at the right time, so to speak.
Thanks and congratulations for
Thank
your
you.
new launch and for everything that you've been doing. And I think up until now, whatever you have said, I just want to pick out a few things and
Okay.
kind of pierce it into everybody listening their minds. And I think what really stood out for me personally was, what you said. You said that there's no time like right now. There will always be a crisis, small, big. There will always be challenges. But if you're actually wanting to take that step, just take it because you have to start somewhere and you have to start someday. So why not today?
Yeah,
So
but
I think
I think I would just want to add something to that. While it's great to, be in a position to always be ready to take on a challenge, in some cases, there might be a case wherein you might want to take a step back, because it's always a good idea to have your ducks in a row before you actually start doing things. I mean, this may be a slightly more conservative way of looking at starting up, but in some cases, strike when the iron is hot. So whenever you feel like there is an absolute need for what you're trying to do, just go ahead and do it.
sure. I think that's where your when you said, one needs to be mindful whether it's with the people you're dealing with, whether it's with the experiences you have. Again, that kind of plays a big role even here. So a lot of what I feel, Siddharth, is that a lot of people today have a plan ready. They've got their Excel sheets, they've got that business plan, they've shared it with a lot of people. But it's that first step, and I think that's what is the hardest, right? To just get out, jump out of your comfort zone and say, okay, let me start. So if you guys have that plan ready, if you have put your brains, your mind to it, then I mean, go ahead and take that leap. And we're always there are tons of us that you can reach out to for any sort of advice, even there.
Yeah, just
But
to add on to that as well, it doesn't always need to necessarily just be a leap, right? I mean,
yeah,
in some cases, you may not be in a position wherein you're ready to quit your job to start something today, right? I mean, there is no
absolutely.
harm. There is no harm in trying small. I mean, if you're working full time, at your company and you have the idea for a great plan, find a customer, have a conversation, try to identify exactly what is it that they need, try and understand how, through whatever it is that you're trying to do, how are you going to make their life easy, right? Or their life better, or their business is more profitable. And if you're able to identify a use case, start working toward it. You do not need to, I mean, this person may or may not be paying you, right? So you have no reason to have to churn out something overnight, right? You can take your time, you can do your due diligence, you can spend the time iterating it, rapid prototyping it. And when you think you're ready to actually ask somebody for money, right? And when somebody gives you the first check in your hand, that's when you decide to take the leap, because you have the makings of something great. And that would be the ideal time for you to take that leap and go ahead and do whatever it is that you want to do.
Thank you, and I hope a lot of you all have picked up from that. So, Siddharth, let me ask you, what is it that keeps you constantly motivated to keep growing, and keep getting into and consulting new businesses?
So I am on this quench for learning almost on a daily basis, right? I mean, when I was growing up, there was a point in time I told my parents that I want to be a perpetual student. Doesn't matter what I'm going to be studying. I might be doing engineering today. I might decide to do law and political science tomorrow. right? I mean, I've always had this quench to have all the answers, right? Right, and that's kind of what I started doing. I mean, I realized I used to read a lot. I still do, and I moved from reading books like Harry Potter and reading books like Clive Cussler and what have you, to start reading something that gives me some information, right? If I'm spending 8, 10, 12 hours of my time reading a book, I might want to get some learning out of it. So I think I have primarily try to get out of my comfort zone on a daily basis, whether it is working with a in a space like upskilling and education, where I consulted, whether it's working with agencies, whether it's working with FMCG brands, whether it is just interacting with interesting people on a daily basis. I think that's kind of what I enjoy the most about what I do, actually.
Amazing. So you kind of keep growing by constantly learning, and I think that's something that we all need to do at every point in our life. And for you, you said, you pick up a book and that's what is learning. You kind of get that extra learning from there. But I all of us have our own ways, so whatever works for whoever needs to just pull that out. But you're right, you're a student for life, always, whether you say it out or not. And as long as you accept that, you're going to keep growing.
Absolutely. I mean, there really is no other way, right? I mean, look at the way the world has changed, right? We've been talking about the steam engines before the Industrial Revolution, right? Please tell me where you find a steam engine today, right? Apart from a museum, right? So the entire world is all about the evolution, right? I mean, you have to, I mean, to stay relevant, you have to know more, you have to learn more, and you don't learn more just for the sake of your job. You learn something that actually excites you, because that's what's going to drive your passion, right? And you need to be passionate about that learning. So it doesn't necessarily need to be about AI if you are in technology, or if you're in computer science. Doesn't need to be about sustainable fashion if you're in fashion. Doesn't need to be about new digital platforms if you're just in social media, or if you're in advertising. I mean, there is absolutely no dearth of the diverse kind of learnings that you can pick up from wherever you want to.
Absolutely. So, Siddharth, what is one thing that you do every single day that keeps you grounded?
Oh, I talk to my girlfriend.
Okay. Are you sure she doesn't drive you up the wall? She keeps you
No,
grounded.
no, no, no. I think no, I think no, it's always good to have a partner who supports you and who understands the challenges and the risks that you do as an entrepreneur. And it's always good to have somebody who can who doesn't take bullshit, right? Because that's one thing that all us entrepreneurs have a tendency to do. I mean, we are used to painting big pictures, but it's always good to have somebody at the back end just telling you, to look at the horizon and just keep walking, rather than
Right.
trying to change path and trying to go for something different. So it's always good to have support. And I'm fortunate to also have great partners who have a huge amount of experience, and they kind of balance me. I mean, I am a free spirit. I think a lot. I have great, huge, big ambitions, and it's always good to have somebody at the back end who is able to channel your ambitions into a plan that could potentially be executed. So yeah, I think these are interesting things.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think bouncing off ideas is always very important. And if you don't have the right person to do it with, like you said, your personally your girlfriend and also your business partners, it's really important to get that feedback. And to get that feedback, it's also very important to be open-minded, to be able to grasp that. So if you're kind of going in with a shield of this is what my idea is and this is what is going to work, then I guess it doesn't always work that way.
But you and I both know it, right? I mean, 90% of the times we end up going with a shield. We are not always going to be open to criticism. At which point in time we need to be able to give ourselves time to think about what we're trying to do as well at some time.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you uh, to a certain extent. I mean, I think all of us, when you come up with an idea, you're kind of not you, but generally we're all kind of so full of it and we're like, wow, this is a fabulous idea. And I think what is very important, and this is not only as an entrepreneur, but even as an individual, to actually step back. So I usually do a very silly thing, is I actually, when I'm super confused or if I've got a very good idea, I first stand in front of the mirror and tell myself that idea. So it
Right.
comes like it's coming from somebody, and then I'm like, okay, what is going to work, what is not going to work. So I feel it's important to question your ideas at every stage, whether it's you yourself or getting someone to do it for you.
Yeah, I also make a business plan for each idea that I have. I mean,
Oh,
at this point in time,
fabulous.
I've got. I mean, when I mean a business plan, I mean financial plans. I don't
Okay,
not just ideas on paper. I
sure,
usually have a financial plan against it, which kind
sure.
of, I mean, data and numbers don't lie, right? I mean, you can think whatever you have, but at the end of the day, data always comes back to save you at the end of it. So I make business plans. I make Excel sheets with every idea to understand the ramifications of what if this could happen, what could we do if this does not happen? What are the other steps that we could maybe take to actually make it work?
Right. That explains all the working weekends and the long hours.
Well, it's fun. I mean, I think there is nothing in the world that I enjoy more than making a business plan. I think that's one of my favorite things in the world to do.
So can I say that is your stress buster? Because I was going to ask you that next. What is it when you get stressed as an entrepreneur? You have to hold a team, you have to carry a team along. So what is it that you do?
When I'm under a lot of stress, that's a good answer. I mean, I'm under a lot of stress, I don't particularly have the ability to have a great amount of time on me. But yeah, I mean, when I'm stressed, I'm probably going to get out of the physical location where I am. So
Sure.
if I'm right now, I mean, I'm at my home office, right? So if I'm sitting at my desk and I realize that there's something that I really do not uh, want to deal with, is something that's just stressing me out, I'm probably just going to get up and go make myself a coffee, or I'll probably go and hang out with my parents, joke a little bit, or I'm going to call somebody, and have a little bit of a conversation. And I do have a tendency to get fairly agitated. Right, at which point in time, it's perhaps also a good idea to not call too many people. So yeah. No, so but yeah, I mean, the idea is to get out, clear your head. I mean, I'm a coffee drinker and I love my coffee, so I probably go and get myself a cup of coffee. So you know how stressful a day is, looking at the number of coffee cups I've actually used in the day.
All right. So Siddharth, how was this entire time when COVID started, when this entire lockdown started? I remember you telling me that way before the lockdown was announced, you were all kind of packed and ready to work from home. So what was it that got you thinking so far ahead?
So one of the things that we kind of started realizing, so give a little bit of background. My brother was supposed to be flying down from Australia to spend a month and a half with us, and it was going to be a fairly long vacation for him because I haven't seen him for almost a year and a half or a little longer now. So we started seeing that we were going to go to Singapore for a week. We started realizing that there was a lockdown. The possibility for the number of cases going high all over the world. Now, I mean, we as in India perhaps did not have as many tests or whatever it is.
Sure.
Our numbers were lagging; they were not getting reported, or whatever issues there were. We kind of realized that being in a city like Bombay, there is going to be no escaping the pandemic. Right? We were anyways at that point in time. This early March. We anyways started seeing the effects in Italy. And we kind of realized that all of us have families, and all of us have members in the family who are slightly older. Um, you know so while we have the ability wherein we can sit at a desk and do our work, we don't necessarily need to go out to actually work. I mean, we in technology, we are fairly fortunate wherein we have the ability to work from home. So we actually shut down our offices in the first week of March, before any concept of a lockdown, before the number of cases in Bombay were probably about 75 or 80 when we actually shut down the office. And my partner and I physically, we literally put all the machines in the trunk of our cars, and we actually physically went and dropped it off at the people, I mean, the houses of the people of our team, and set up the home office, because we knew that this is going to be a crunch time. Plus, we are also working with intellectual property, and we had to do something, primarily because we did not want people on the team to actually be using their personal devices to work on intellectually property protected data.
Sure.
So we realized that we had to. I mean, what we did see, however, is when the lockdown was announced, there was a huge scramble for people to find transporters to move PCs and machines across the city. And we saw enough and more drama happening around that time just before the lockdown was announced. But we were a little bit more forthcoming to that fact. I mean, my partner has very old parents. So the moment he decided that he is probably not a good idea for him to be coming to work, we kind of realized that I think that should extend to the entire team itself. So we basically spent 2 days in office, moved all local processes online, and just packed up the office. I don't think any of us have been back in the office since the first week of March, except for one time where I went to pick up some files because
Sure.
IT filings had to be done.
Sure.
Apart from that, haven't kind of ventured out of the house, let alone the office.
Wow. Okay. And did you guys ever work from home before this, or was this your first?
So we have never done it.
Okay.
For the longest time, we have been extremely against it, primarily because of the fact that intellectual property, and the fact that we did not want people to be working remotely, because there is absolutely no verifiable way by which you can protect how data could be potentially misused or transferred. So we had been strong opposers to the concept of remote working or working from home. But fortunately, we have a very small team, and all of them have been working with us since we started. So it's a fairly, I mean, extremely trustworthy team. So we've not had too many issues actually doing this remotely at all.
Amazing. Pretty cool. So Siddharth, what is it? What is the next opportunity that you're looking at for Gateway VR?
So we are anyways in the interior design ecosystem, right? I mean, still early days. We're not commercially launched the product. We've only launched a preview for it. So we are actually in the process of raising some capital. I think that's something that has taken is going to take its own sweet time. But that's something that we have already started working on. We are already trying to identify other use cases within the ecosystem, where we could potentially use the same technology, which becomes a very important part of this entire thing, because we are talking about digital transformation. We're not saying that we're going to solve problem 1, 2, and 3. We are
Okay.
talking about a whole scale restructure of an unstructured ecosystem through technology, which is a fairly large and comprehensive ask to begin with. But we've decided that we want to kind of look at things in a little bit more holistic manner. And
Sure.
as such, we spend. I mean, I personally spend about 2 hours a day talking to customers, whether people who have signed up, whether people who are using our technology, whether people who are not using it, or whether people have heard this for the very first time, because I wanted to kind of get an understanding from them in terms of what their needs are, what are their problems, and if there is any way by which we already have the technology stack to solve those problems, or what is it that we can do, for one customer that can also be offered to pretty much everybody else that we will be working with over a period of time.
Nice. I mean, I think it's always important, right, to get that again coming to the same point of feedback that you're understanding what is working, what the requirement is, and working towards it. So it's again really important to understand what your client needs. So, and a lot of times I think people go into the space of starting a business or being an entrepreneur thinking of what they feel is the best idea, but it actually should be the opposite. Okay, you have an idea. Is it something that your client requires? So I think you guys are doing that fabulously well, and it
Finally,
seems to
finally,
be
we are finally starting to do that.
okay. There's
No, so I mean,
always Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's what I was saying, right? We started GatewayVR with the intention of building Amazon for virtual reality, right? Because that's what we thought was going to be cool. That's what we thought the industry needs. And I mean, obviously, over a period of time, we started. The more time we spend with people, the more time, let's face it. When I was fairly young. I mean, I don't have a business background at all, right? So there has been a lot of learning. It almost seems like the last 4 years have been a double executive MBA. Because it's just learning something new on a daily basis, and it's all coming from practical learning. But we started with an idea that we thought would change the world, and we finally have an idea that could potentially change the world.
So as you more years of experience like helps you evolve the way you think. So
That invariably happens to everybody.
yeah, yeah. I think it's also as long as you allow it to happen to you.
There
S-
is,
uh,
yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
I know,
go
I know
ahead.
what you're trying to say. No, I know what you're trying to say. Yes, I mean, I would agree with you that you need to allow change to happen. You need to have a little bit of an open mind to
Right.
actually be able to, see the changing world.
Yeah. So, so that before we end with the last two quick questions, I just want to ask everybody if they have any questions for you, please drop them in the comment box and we'll try to answer them for you.
Okay, I
So,
think, yeah.
why? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go on, go on. I thought there were a couple of questions that were coming in, but I think they were just hearts that Sonia is sending.
Okay, so we do have a question. So is the interior design sector blooming right now to introduce technology in it? Our mighty class
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, so the sector is not booming. The sector has always been booming, but it's had a lot of negative effects because of COVID. And as a result of it, we realized that this is the right time to introduce technology because all the issues or a lot of the issues that we are facing within the ecosystem is also largely because of the lack of technology within the ecosystem. There are still people who make registers and who track everything in notebooks, right? In a lot of cases, something as basic as Excel sheets or customer relationship management tools haven't gone there. So yeah, I mean, there's a right time to add technology in a system because people finally realize the need for it, and which becomes a very very important factor in this entire scheme of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think there is this time has kind of given you that push that if you haven't done it now, then kind of go for it. So, guys, please drop in your messages, your questions for Siddharth. So, Siddharth, tell me, is there any advice you would like to share with everybody listening now or later who are waiting and kind of struggling to take their first step into entrepreneurship?
So I would say that if there's anything that I have learned and that I can potentially pass on is find your first customer, right? Find the one person, whether it's a member of your family, whether it is somebody on the outside, who would be a user who has the same problems that you're trying to solve, and speak to them. You don't need to pitch them anything. You do not need to sell them anything. Just speak to them. Just get them to open up to you, and tell you what are the problems that they're dealing with. And then you create a use case, and then you go back to them and saying, you know what, I want to start a company, and the problem that I'm looking to solve. This is what I'm trying to do. Can you give me your thoughts? If you do that, I mean, there is absolutely no need for you to actually take a leap and start something. You can start something in an hour if you want.
Thanks. Thank you. And I hope everyone takes that in because you're absolutely right. I think that one input that you get that helps you evolve your idea because that idea keeps evolving before it's actually launched. So get that
Right.
one person to help you start somewhere. So yeah. So
You got
what
one
is
more thing.
one book that has helped you stay on track?
So I'm not a big proponent on rereading books. But one of the books that I usually always, find myself coming back to is Start with Why, by Simon Sinek. If you, if anybody has not read that book, and you do not have 4, 5, 6 days to read a book, that's absolutely fine. You can just Google Simon Sinek Start with Why. He's done beautiful TED Talks, and you get the ability for how your words can inspire action and how your words can inspire change. Uh, you know, as entrepreneurs, we always have a tendency to start with the what, right? I mean, we always the first thing that comes out of our mouth is, what are you doing, right? And we start, I can talk about technology, I can talk about this, but you are probably not going to have as close an association with what we are trying to do or what my company is trying to do until I tell you why I'm doing this, right? Or why is it that I am so extremely passionate about doing this that I wake up, I cannot sleep at night because I'm just thinking of ways, thinking of reasons to solve it. Right. So I think there's a very interesting example there on how Apple communicates. I think that's something that people should definitely watch, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, whether you are in advertising, whether you're in marketing, whether you are in sales, whether you're in hospitality, wherever you are. I think that is one thing that you should absolutely watch or read the book.
Yeah, I completely second that. That's a fabulous. He so simply puts out certain things which make so much sense. So thank you, Siddharth. I don't think we have any more questions, but in case someone does, can they reach out to you somewhere?
Yes, I mean they can send me a message on Siddharth Mahajan. If not, if they want to understand more about our company, they can reach out to GatewayVR.io, which is our Instagram handle. And if you want, you can always reach out to me at Siddharth@GatewayVR.io, or just drop in a message to Ankita and she will connect us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Again, I know it's been a busy weekend for you, but thank you so much for coming here and chatting with us. I was
Likewise.
actually quite inspired by that story that you shared here, and you've shared it earlier with me. The 22-year-old you in that government office. So I mean, I think you've come a really long way, and yeah, thank you so much for coming here and adding value to everybody who's listening.
Always happy to help. I mean, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I mean, fairly easy to reach out to me. So looking forward to hearing from you.
See you. Thanks
All
you.
right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Being a Sunday, you guys are still here. So, thank you so much. And I will see all of you again for the last and the fourth part of this series next Sunday at 5 p.m. So, stay safe till then. Have a good week. Try planning what your next step, how you can take this next step into the entrepreneurial world. So, thank you so much for listening and take care, everyone. See you next week.